Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Please kindly click on the subscribe button. We are drafting this trendy overbust corset in this class. Trust me, it is well detailed. Okay, so let's get started. We are drafting an overbust corset, and the measurements I'll be needing for this drafting is bust, my waist, hip measurements. That's the hip circumference, waist circumference, the bust span, top length, the shoulder width, my armhole measurements, my chest line measurements. So I have one pattern that will be representing the front, while the other one will represent the back. Now the first thing I will do is to get my shoulder measurements. So I am assuming that this is my center front. So let's get started. So my shoulder width is 7.5. That's 15 divided by 2. Then my neck width is 3 by 3. So I'm going to mark my 3 by 3. Okay. I'll just go ahead and rule it across temporarily. Now, the next thing will be my shoulder slope. My shoulder slope, I'll use 1.25 for my shoulder slope. Though 1.5 is the standard, but I use 1.25. Then I'll go ahead and mark it. Now, the next thing is going to be my armhole measurements. I'm going to mark my armhole measurements, which is also 7.5. So I'm going to connect this like so. I'm making those lines a bit faint because I'll be doing so much there later. So here I am. After marking my armhole, I need to identify my chest line. Okay, so for my chest line, it is 6.5. I'll go ahead and mark my 6.5. Okay, then the next measurement is going to be my shoulder to nipple point. My shoulder to nipple point is 10.5. I'll go ahead to mark it. My shoulder to nipple point is 10. I'll go ahead to mark that. Then the next measurement will be my shoulder to underbust. My shoulder to underbust is 14. I'll go ahead to mark it. Then the next measurement will be my shoulder to waist line. I'll also go ahead and mark my shoulder to waistline, which is 17. Then the next measurement is going to be my top length. Okay, so my top length is I'll make my top length 23. You can take your own on your body or your client's body to be sure of the length they want. So my shoulder to the length of my top is going to be 23. So I'll go ahead and mark the 23. Now that's for the front. The next thing I am going to do is to get my bust span measurements. My bust span is 7.5. 7.5 divided by 2 will give me 3.75. So I'll go ahead and mark my 3.75 and take it all the way down, like so. Now, having done this, I am going to impute
my dart. Now I'm going to impute my waist dart. For my waist dart, I'll be using 1 inch. I'll be using 1 inch. For my underbust tightening, I will use 1.1 on both sides. 1.1 on both sides. Now, be informed that this has to do with the measurements, with the kind of bust you're working with, okay? You can use 0.75 so for someone with a less big bust, like maybe from 33. And if the person has a big bust, you can use up to 1 inch. So note that I use 1.1 on the under bust and I use 1 inch on the waist. Now, even though this is my bust span measurement, the 3.75, that is not what I'll be using because I am going to make it slanted. So I'm going to place my ruler on my bust points and connect to the slants I want, okay? So you get the slants from your end line. You determine how you want it, okay? So for this one, I'll be making use of 1.5. Then I'll place my ruler up to the point of the bust, up to the bust point. Now, having done this, I am going to impute my darts from this new line, which means I'll no longer make use of this one. Now, what is the measurement I'll be using? From my waist, I'll be making use of 1 inch on both sides. Okay, then on the M, I'll be making use of 0.75 on both sides. Now, the next thing I'll go ahead and do is my underbust. This is my underbust measurements, and this is my waistline, and this is my M line. So on my underbust, I'm going to go ahead and mark 1 inch, okay, and 1.1 on 1.2 on the other side. You can actually make this equal. It's totally up to you. Because I want the underbust to be well fitted, that is why, and then I am making use of 1.2 here and 1 inch here. And if you want, you can actually make it 1.1 on both sides. You can make it 1.1 on both sides. It still doesn't make any difference. So the next thing I'll go ahead to do is to place my cuff. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and place my cuff from the bust points and connect to what I marked, which is my 1.1. Okay, I'll do the same thing here. Okay, so then I am going to connect this. I am going to connect these lines, the dart I took for the, like so. Are we together? Now, having done this, the next step is going to be for me to take my measurements. But before that, I am going to do the yoke tightening, okay? If you're doing just a tube dress, okay, this is what I will advise. Just come to your shoulder points. Place your tape roll from the shoulder point to the neck point. Then fold the tape roll and look for the midpoint, okay? once you find the midpoint, which is this point, you place your ruler and connect to the chest line, I mean to the nipple point, like so. Okay, now having done this, the next thing I will do, like I said, if you are just making a tube dress, you can just go straight to the point. Okay, you can use up to 0.5 here and then 0.75 here. Okay, depending on whom you're making for. But be very careful when you are taking a dart here. Have it in mind that it is necessary that you put it here so that you don't have your armpits showing. What do I mean? I'm just trying to tell you that whatever you take here, if it is too much, it's going to affect your armhole and this part will be revealing. So you have to be very careful with that part. So before we continue with the shoulder tightly, with the yoke tightly, let's go ahead and take our bust dart. The bust dart is the difference between my front length and my back length. So my front length is 17 and my back length is 15. My back length is 15, so 17 minus 15, that's 2 inches. Okay, so I'm just going to come down by 2 inches, then mark my 2 inches. Okay, now this is what I'll do. I'll come up by 1 here and I'll come down by 1 here. Those are the 2 inches. Now I'll connect this 1 inch like so. I'll repeat the same for the other 1 inch. I have connected it. So the next thing I will do is to take my measurements. Now, what am I going to do? What do I have here? What is my bust measurement? My bust measurement is 37 divided by 4. It will give me 9.25. So I'm just going to come here and mark the 9.25. Then I'll go ahead and mark my under bust measurements, okay, which is 29 divided by 4, and that will give me 7.25. Okay, I'm going to place it here. Then my waist measurement is 29 as well, and that's 7.25. Now, and my hip line measurement, which is 38, and that'll give me 9.5. Check what I am doing. Sorry, I didn't explain that part. I am actually skipping the that. This means that whatever I have here, I am returning in here. So this is what I did. Measured up to the point, up to those points. I measured up to those points. Okay. I measured up to this point. I skipped my taper from that point to continue on this next point. Okay, so this is what I did. Then from this point, I removed my taper and placed it here. Then I continued. My M line is 9.5. Okay, so apparently for my bust measurement, okay, I am going to take, I've taken my bust measurement from here, but don't forget that this part too is still part of my bust. Okay, so I'm still going to retake this my bust measurement, but by then I'll be lifting up my measurements on the upper part of the bust. Now let's connect. I'm going to connect this. Okay, I'll connect this. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and cut this part so that I can close my bust dart in order to get my overbust tightening. Okay, see what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to slash this point. I'll be slashing this point and I'll be closing this. I'll be closing that temporarily. Okay, now I'll measure what I have here. I'll measure what I have from this point here to this point here. So from here to this point, I have 3.25. 3.25 divided by 2. 3.25 divided by 2 gave me 1.6. Now, so I'm going to place the 1.6 here and the other 1.6 here. Okay, now I'm going to reconnect this 1.6 here and I'll connect the other 1.6, connect it up to the bust point. Okay, so I am going to transfer that 1.6 to the end, to the edge of my armhole, like so. Are we together? Now I am going to connect this point to this point, like so, because that will be my new armhole. Okay, for you to be sure, you can come back and then remeasure your 1.25 or whatever it is that you used for your shoulder slope. Okay, so this is mine. Now I am going to transfer the 1.6 to this point and I will redraft my armhole. Remember, I didn't fully draft my armhole before. Maybe I should just do that so I don't confuse you. This is my original armhole and it's 7.5. So I looked for the midpoint and came in by half an inch. Okay, then the next thing I'll do is to I just did the line temporarily. Now this is the new armhole, so I'm going to go ahead and plot the new armhole, placing my cuff that way. Now this is my new armhole. Now I'm going to take, I said I'm going to now take my bust line, my bust measurements again, which is 37 divided by 4, and that will give me 2.5. Okay, so I'm just going to place, that. Okay, so I said I didn't take my bust measurement, so I'm going to retake my bust measurement from this opening, skipping this dart to 9.25, and I have this. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and connect that. So what I did there was keep this dart because this is still part of my bust. So I just came up here to take my measurement from this point. Okay, so I took one here. The one I took here was from here, but after my that, there is some space here, so that's why I had to take it again. And now I have this. So this is my overbust. Okay, so I have 0.6 0.6 as my overbust tightening. Okay, now having done this, the next thing I want to do is close back this, and then decide my neckline for this house piece. Okay, so I will also need to cut out this that one so that I can close that part. Let me cut it from the upper part. Okay, so I'm doing this because the reason why, so I went ahead to cut my bust that so that I can close this that line, and the reason why I am doing that is so I can draw out my neckline. I'm trying to be careful. Okay, so I'm just going to close like so. Now, after closing, I will determine the kind of neckline. You know, you can actually be creative with your neckline. Okay, so this is me placing my, I'm actually doing a scoop neckline. Okay, so I want to be sure that this is not going to reveal my bust, so I'm just going to place my curve this way. So I'm placing it almost half of my armhole measurement, and I am having this. Okay, you know, you can be creative with necklines. Okay, if you want, you can still come ahead and do something like this. You can do whatever you like. So this is going to be my neckline. So it's going to be a scoop neckline. Okay, so this can be as deep as you want. This all depends on you. Let me trace it out so you can see. So that's that. So I am not done with the main pattern yet. Okay, so I'll just place back my tape so that I can continue drafting. Now, what am I doing next? The next thing I am going to do, is to look for the midpoint of this waist. I'll be dividing it by 2. So let's check what I have there. I have 5.5. Then I'm going to place my curve, fold it into 2, and check what is it I am left with. Okay, so once I get this, okay, I'm going to place this like so, still slanted. Okay, now it's okay for you to determine how high you can come here by 2 inches while placing your curve to go like so, or you can just manipulate it whichever way you want. Okay, so I'll go ahead and connect this like so. Okay, now, you know, I didn't do any reduction from my waist. So the only reduction I did is here, and I have returned it. So this, whatever I am taking away from here, I'm not going to return it again because, of course, I want to cinch my waist. So I am going to come here and take, this depends on you, okay? You can take 0.5 on both sides, and you can take 0.25 on both sides. But have it in mind. Let's assume I am taking 0.5, which is half inch. That is 1 inch in total for the front. Okay, so let's assume you do the same thing for the back. That is 2 inches. Don't forget that you still also take from the center back. So all of this depends on you, on how much you decide to take. Okay, let me take half inch. Okay, I'll show you something once we are done with this pattern. Now I'm going to connect this my half inch to the hem and take it this way. I'll repeat the same procedure here. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and reconnect like so. Now this is what I have. Now there is one thing beautiful about this technique. Okay, it gives a coffee effect. So how do we achieve that coffee effect? Okay, I don't want the line to be all straight. Okay, so I'm just going to do this. See the way I place my cuff is not more than, is not up to 0.25, just to give me that coffee effect, just for me to have that coffee effect. Like so. Okay, so this is absolutely fine. Okay, now the reason why I said you can use 0.25 is because you are still going to come and repeat that cough here. So if you're repeating that coffee effect here, please maintain 0.25, or if you don't want to maintain 0.25, it's totally up to you. Okay, so I'm just going to assume, I'm just going to place this on the original, on the 0.5, okay, to create the curve, while I am assuming that the 0.25 is the original, is the main dart. Okay, so I'm not going to go outside of this. I'm not going outside. You see that? It's just basically like I am blending this up. Okay, I'm just trying to get a perfect curve. Okay, so I'm just going to stop here and then flip. Sorry, I said I was not going to go beyond my dart. I've forgotten. So I'm using the exact dart. I'm just creating the curve around the exact dart. So I'm just going to be shading for you to see what I am doing very well. Okay. So this is what I have. Okay. Just so you can see, in this class, try to avoid any form of pointy edge. So this curve is already created. Now this is what I want us to do for the front. Now that we are done with the front measurements, you know my waist is 29, okay, and we divided 29 by 4 and we had 7.25. Now let's check what is left on my front waist. I'm going to skip my dart. I'm skipping my dart from this first line, okay, then place it on the next one. Okay, I'm just trying to check what I have left on my waist. 7.25 minus 5.5 actually means I have deducted equals to 1.75. Okay, so times 2, so that's 3.75. Okay, so if we calculate it like that, I've already taken 3.75 from my waist. Now, what I want to explain here is this. If you're not okay with the total amount of what you have snatched, if you feel this is too much, you can always decrease your dart, okay, to give you whatever you want, okay. For me, this is just
The video is
fine,
getting too
okay,
long.
and
I'll
there is
continue
no
in the
reason
next tutorial.
to
Please watch for the next.
to add more or to reduce. So let's go to the back. So to draft the back,